and welcome to At Issue. We're so glad you're with us for this conversation with the three retirees, as I'm referring to them. We've talked the last 2 weeks about challenges and changes in industries at Caterpillar, in banking, and in healthcare. This time we're going to talk about the future of Central Illinois with the unique perspective of those three retirees. Let me introduce to you first Doug Oberhelman. Doug is the retired CEO and chairman of Caterpillar. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, H.
And Kevin Schoeplein is here. Kevin is retiring, and I don't mean that personality-wise. I mean sometime later this year, at a date to be named.
That too, yeah.
That you will retire from OSF. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
And also retired on June 30th, Doug Stewart of PNC Bank here in Peoria, regional president of PNC Bank. Let's start just real quickly. What are you going to do in retirement? Are you going to stay here? Are you going to move? What are you going to do?
In our case, my wife and I, this is home. We do not have another residence anywhere in the country. We don't have a Florida place or an Arizona place. This is it. And obviously Diane is pretty well known around here as a born and bred Peorian. She has significant investments here, and in fact we're continuing to look at investments in Central Illinois and the Peoria area, so we're going to be here. We like it here. I was actually born in San Diego. Not a lot of people know that, and moved to Illinois as a young child. So Illinois is my home, and we intend to stay here and hopefully continue to influence some things and keep Peoria the way it is.
And
it's a pretty good place to be.
Just for the record, Diane is Diane Cullinan of Cullinan Properties. Future for you?
I have 5 children, 8 grandchildren. So looking forward to spending time with my 8 grandchildren and more time with my wife. I mean, one of the things that probably is, as CEOs, you spend a lot of time at work and really don't give our spouses the due that they deserve in terms of our time. And she's looking forward to that. I told her, be careful what you ask for. So, no, I don't get lunch at home. So, but we do have a small guest house in South Carolina between Hilton Head area and Savannah that we hope to spend a few months during the summer, during the winter at, and but visit the kids and spend time here in Central Illinois.
And for you, Doug Stewart?
Well, very much like the other two, our only residence is here in the Peoria area in Central Illinois. We have 2 children. One of them lives here and one lives in St. Louis, and between them 5 grandchildren. And so between family time and continuing to devote ourselves to the community, I'm sure during February and perhaps January we'll find a warmer place to spend a little bit of time, but our roots are here and we're staying here.
Let's turn our attention to a broader picture. What do you see the strengths of Central Illinois and the weaknesses of Central Illinois? Let me start with you, Kevin, and what strengths, and I'm talking as a region, not in healthcare, but as a region, what do you think the biggest strengths are, and what are our weaknesses here?
I think we have a diverse economy, growing healthcare economy in a positive way, and we have a great industrial base in the context of Caterpillar and others, great financial base. We're the crossroads of a lot of highway infrastructure. We have a river, and so we have a lot of positive things that contribute. Most importantly, it's a great place to raise a family. And that's why that was a major factor. We didn't know Peoria, Illinois when we first had the opportunity presented. We were Ohio born, raised, and with the opportunity to come to Peoria, fell in love with it. Our kids loved their opportunity to live here. We lived here for over 40 years, except for 5 years that we were in Rockford, Illinois. And so we have the challenges that we have to face and to deal with, but it's a great place to raise a family.
So what about a weakness of Central Illinois, something we can improve on?
I think there's an opportunity to get an aligned strategy about the path forward for Peoria. I think there's an opportunity to create continue the vibrancy of downtown. I think that's an important element of that. And as we create that common agenda for the central Illinois area, it's just not a Peoria. I think it's an opportunity for all the communities around Peoria to come together for a common collective strategy forward. So,
Doug Stewart, strengths, weaknesses?
Well, I think Kevin covered the waterfront pretty well, though. There, I would add educational institutions. I think we've got good, strong, all the way from University of Illinois Medical School to 4 nursing schools, Bradley University, ICC, and you can certainly expand that further to Bloomington, Champaign, et cetera. So that, I think, is really important to the vibrancy of the community, and frankly need to be utilized even more than they are right now. And so I think that's another real attribute. And along with that, between what Caterpillar does, what the U of I does, what the Ag Lab does, we also have a significant amount of research that's going on there, and we have a growing entrepreneurial base as well, which I think could be great. And I won't steal Kevin's thunder, but somebody ought to really understand and talk about what's going on at Jump, because there's just so much innovation that can be positive for the area and certainly for the institution. Jobs, training. We have to figure out, number one, I think, how to get more younger people to come back to the area, but beyond that, wherever you have opportunities for employment, we've got to make sure that we have a workforce that is prepared to take those jobs and move them forward. And I suppose if you want to talk about what the challenges are, you have to start with the state of Illinois and the environment in which we're operating as well.
And the reference to Jump is Jump Trading Center, which was made possible in part by a Chicago individual who his daughter was saved by OSF, and he contributed money so this innovation center could be formed. So with that, let's turn to Doug Oberhelman and strengths, weaknesses of Central Illinois.
Doug and Kevin have really outlined what I think is a tremendous group of assets across Central Illinois. I'm going to take a little different tack here and maybe address a little bit the elephant in the room about Caterpillar, which I'll come back to talking about the assets of Peoria, Central Illinois. The move to Chicago area was a headline blow, there's no question, to our ego here, to our reputation, to a lot of things. But if you look past that, and I think this is where we need to start talking about this, and we need some leadership to do that, and I'll also come to that. But if you look past that, we Caterpillar in the Peoria area, employ 13,000 or so people. They are not going to Chicago. There's no room for them in Chicago, and the company said they're not leaving for Chicago. A couple of hundred jobs will, and we'll feel that and go through that. But what's left here is the absolute root of Caterpillar's R&D system at the Tech Center in Mossville, a huge distribution business in Morton, a foundry in Mapleton that is at all-time high employment. In fact, work has come back in from other states because that's such a world-class facility. The only place the company makes D9s, D10s, and 11s in East Peoria, and lots of other things. We're down several thousand people in the Peoria area, not because of the move to Chicago, but because of the business cycle. The business cycle will return. Caterpillar will hire several thousand people back as the company grows again, and they're going to be right here in Illinois. So we'll get past the headline impact a little bit into the medium term, say a couple, 3 years, the business, and assuming the business cycles continue, we won't feel it economically here in Peoria. Sure, there's a few high-end homes that are going to sit longer than normal, and somebody's going to get a great buy on those, by the way. But the overall GDP is probably not going to feel the impact of that too much. So it's a blow to our ego. So what do we do about that? There's a couple of other weaknesses. Doug alluded to the state of Illinois. That's the single biggest risk to Peoria and all of us in Illinois than anything else. It's embarrassing. It's been dysfunctional for over 20 years. We don't hold our local politicians accountable for their actions, and we should. The politicians in Illinois, as in most states, pick their voters. We don't pick our politicians, and there's a litany of things. I won't rant on that too much more, but that we all need to get involved in and really address. There's another issue that I think we really need help on, and I think Kevin alluded to it, and that we are a region here with lots of assets. 4, 5, 6 counties. Throw in Bloomington and look what we have. But we've got this river divide that doesn't allow us to use all of our benefits and talk about them. We're discouraged right now. We're down on ourselves. And I would like to think we'd start thinking about some of these assets we've been talking about, maybe plant some seeds on how we sell this and market this and feel better about ourselves. I'll give you an example. We just met with some folks from Ottawa. They're renaming their region to Star of Rock Country and trying to do some of this in a positive way. I think we need to do that around here and really talk about what we have to offer, which is huge. Move on from the CAT decision. Look what's still here with CAT. Look what's still here with banking. Look what's still here with education. And the medical community here is, we now have the biggest, head of the biggest hospital group in the state. What an asset. Let's start talking about that and moving on. It's going to take a little while to get through that, but we need some leaders to come out and start talking about that. You may hear me doing some of that later on this year and on into next year. But we've got a lot to offer. Let's go for it.
Do you share this attitude
Yeah.
that we need to kind of correct our attitude and say we have some assets? Now, how do we go about taking advantage of those assets?
Yeah, I think, Doug was spot on. And one thing I want to add, as Doug indicated, the elephant in the room in terms of, I appreciate the struggle that Caterpillar had when they went through that decision. Okay, but we should be thrilled that we have 12,000 jobs that stayed here. And as Doug indicated, our biggest risk is the state in terms of our ability to be able to retain jobs and get a growing economy in this state. Because that's the end of the day is going to have
That's
to.
exactly right.
That's going to be the help that drives it, the situation. As the economy hopefully changes and starts growing, we've got to make Central Illinois a great place for them to want to locate and live. As Doug Stewart indicated, we have got great educational systems. Bradley, Illinois State, Illinois University. We have connection with the University of Illinois College of Medicine here, so that the talent and the younger professionals, we've ideally like to capture them earlier, because people are starting, at least at this point in time, I think it'll change over time, people start making their decisions about where they want to live before they even have a job. And so we have to understand that. But our ability to be able to come together as a region and make those decisions and to set a collective path rather than competing against each other, I think doesn't serve us well at all. And I think we have an opportunity to do that. So,
Doug Stewart, can the CEO Roundtable play a role in coalescing all of this and saying, here's what we need to do as a region?
Well, I would say the answer to that is they can play part of the role. I actually happen to be the first chairman of the CEO Council Roundtable, whatever.
It's had several names.
It's had several names, and actually very much the brainchild of Glenn Barton and Dave Ransberg at the time. And the issue or the thought process was bring the CEOs of the largest companies together, and let's not do the work of the Chamber of Commerce or the EDC or whatever, but when we see specific projects or want to make statements, then we can do it in a unified and uniform manner. So consequently, the CEO Council was behind Peoria Next, the cancer center, that's Cancer Research Center at the University of Illinois College of Medicine. Right now they're looking at the water company buyout. So I think that is a good group to have around and to be focused, and particularly to be focused on projects, and they're looking at education in the K through 12 system now as well. So the answer is yes, but it's got to be a lot more than that.
Is there, do you see, we were the whiskey capital back in the 1800s up to 1919. Then we became manufacturing. Holt came here in 1910, and Caterpillar grew, and Komatsu, and manufacturing became a core in the 20th century. In the 21st century, you mentioned diversity earlier in the economy. Is there something we need to add to the economy in Central Illinois?
I think there's always things to add, but you've got to be competitive. We've got to be competitive regionally, as a state, and so on, and we are in a lot of areas. And what I'm suggesting isn't just a marketing campaign, although that's part of it, but how do we marshal these resources and pick the few things? Maybe the CEO Council has a role in prioritizing some of these things we want to get after. But how do we unite a dozen mayors, a dozen county boards, or whatever it is, and then let that group figure out the top 5 things or so that we ought to be doing, and really get after them and solve some really big things. I'll tell you one of my pet peeves, and I fought this at Caterpillar with our investor base, our board, everybody else. Peoria is named the worst city in America for African Americans. Seriously. If that happened to Kevin's company, Doug's company, or mine, we'd have a task force overnight addressing that issue. As one example, coming back to the things that aren't right at the moment. That's one of them. But a company like Caterpillar trying to recruit worldwide, people read that stuff. It makes a difference. So a lot of these things we can get after and address and get moving on and make people feel good about it.
Did you want to add to that thought?
Well, I think Doug makes a great point in terms of the importance of diversity. And we have diversity in a lot of different, Indian community is a great diversified and great social construct and contributor to the Central Illinois. But African American, in terms of as we think about recruiting, we've had examples where physicians or individuals that come in and they look. It's a great organization to work for, but then they look about what else social construct and infrastructure there is, and that's clearly an opportunity that we have.
I think you mentioned job training in your discussion, and I always look at Excel, a manufacturing organization down in South Pekin, and they're constantly looking for qualified workers. So is part of what we need to do is to match that? We've got high unemployment in 61605, but we can't get enough workers at Excel, and name some other companies. Is that an area where we can focus more on with this coordinated effort?
Well, I think the answer in short is yes, and I think the institution to do that is Illinois Central College. We've got a great community college here, and community colleges in many respects were set up as semi-vocational institutions, although they had a baccalaureate bent to them. Now, if you look at the credit hours out at ICC, what you find out is that 65 to 70% are courses that are being taught for people that intend to go on to get a 4-year degree. But they've got great facilities out there. They have a large district, 10 counties, and they have the instructors as well. We need to figure out how to utilize both the high school and the kind of career counseling out there to show what kind of great jobs they're out there for people that learn a trade or a vocation at an institution that we already have in place. Now, I'm not saying that's the single answer, but we do have assets here that can address that problem. And right now, in my opinion, it's not happening at the level that it needs to.
District 150 is kind of getting on the bandwagon too with vocational trades. I mean, when we all grew up, in our age, you had a shop class, a sewing class, a woodworking class, and so on. Those have all been decimated. And yet today, we can't hire welders. And there's a tremendous career group of industries like welding and a lot, in our case, service technicians that can actually fix a machine.
Well,
And there's a wide dearth of supply. And this is where a District 150 to an ICC to a Caterpillar in our case for our industry could really make a difference. And it's starting, it's coming.
and you've had, as a company, you've had an arrangement with ICC with diesel mechanics.
For many years, yes.
And because your dealerships
That's
are
right.
an example of they can't find qualified.
That's
And
right.
unfortunately, you talked about image, everybody says, diesel mechanic, I don't want to be a grease monkey. It's hardly a grease monkey
No,
job.
it's not. It's a computer technician today, first and foremost.
You were anxious to add to this?
No.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm
I
always
thought-
anxious to add things, but we have challenged ourselves in the industry as we think about recruiting and growing the workforce. That's why we have our own colleges, universities for nursing and so forth. But education, and I think, as Doug pointed out, I think District 150 has done great work over the last year or two. They really, I think they've, kudos to them, I think, compliments to them, and the work at Bradley and ICC, and I mean, and the linkage with the University of Illinois, and their work with us in healthcare to help introduce some innovation in healthcare. And just alone, in terms of the last 5-6 years, we've gone from 11,000 employees to 20,000, 21,000. And as Doug mentioned, not only the largest healthcare system in Illinois, but also probably the fifth or sixth largest employer in the state of Illinois. And our corporate and our offices are here. So as we grow, we think about how do we kind of centralize some of the back office activities.
You could envision a financial services research
Yeah.
medical corridor here if we went from Galesburg or Peoria anyway down to Bloomington. And call it some fancy name. I don't know, the marketing people could come up with that. But it's more than that. It's people unified selling what we all have here. Because we are competing against Wisconsin and Indiana and Chicago and Rockford. And the bigger team we have to compete, the better off we're going to be.
We started the conversation talking about you're going to stay here in Peoria. That's where your roots are. But I'd like to know what, each of you, I'd like to know just briefly, what are you going to do? Volunteerism or what's life for Doug Oberhelman going to be?
Well, life, I'm realizing in retirement is pretty good. It's only going to get better. But I have a couple of boards positions that I'm on, and I'm going to be joining another big Canadian public company this winter, which I'm happy about. My wife and I are doing a lot with our family office and investments, and a lot of that will be in the central Illinois region as well. We have 7 grandkids already. We're one behind Kevin, but the 8th one is in the hopper, so it shouldn't be too much longer, and we'll catch up. So we have a lot of that as well. And of course, we are very interested and will continue all of the philanthropic activities we've done here and elsewhere. We're very involved in a number of organizations, and we'll continue to support that full bore and hopefully be a help of change and positive influence in the region.
You'll still be speaking out. I hear that message.
You probably will hear some of that, yeah.
And Kevin?
As I said, 8 grandchildren, 5 children living in anywhere from Seattle to Nashville to Cincinnati. Spend some time with them. My wife would been asked to consider some involvement on different boards. Also, a couple incubators in healthcare. So where ideation comes into play, both in incubators in other parts of this country. I think it's important to keep your mind stimulated. But it's also about giving back, as Doug indicated. We've been fortunate. One of the strengths of this community, they're a very giving and philanthropic community.
And to Doug Stewart.
Same thing, very much. Vicki and I are going to be running the Salvation Army Tree of Lights campaign this year to help them along.
I think you did Heart of Illinois United Way earlier.
United Way, and so we're going to stay involved in the community and with outside interests, and as with these two. At this point, we only have 5 grandchildren, but we'll see if we can work on that too.
Are your children watching the program? They get a message from you? And with that, let me say thank you so much. The past 3 programs have been absolutely revealing in terms of who you really are. I thank you so much to Doug Oberhelman, who is retired from Caterpillar as CEO and chair, to Doug Stewart, who is retired as regional bank president at PNC Bank in Peoria, and not quite retired yet, Kevin Schoeplein. Sometime later this year, you'll be enjoying the fruits of retirement.
After I heard from these gentlemen, I think I can't wait.
Sooner rather than later.
Yes, that's right.
We would agree.
Did you want to tell Sister Judith Ann that?
No, thank you.
And with that, we say thank you to you for joining us these past 3 programs, as we've heard from 3 leaders who will continue to be leaders in Central Illinois. We'll see you next time on the next edition of At Issue.